Against all odds, against the entire world, your Indiana Hoosiers slay the giant, take down the Ohio State Buckeyes, and they are Big Ten champion.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day and the number one podcasting network in the world. And hey, speaking of number one, that's what your Indiana Hoosiers are. They're also Big Ten champions as they take down Ohio State in Indianapolis, 13-10. Final score, Hoosiers over the Buckeyes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem real. Indiana, nobody picks the Hoosiers. Nobody believes the Hoosiers. Nobody respects the Indiana Hoosiers. And just like that, Indiana takes down Ohio State in one of the greatest Big Ten championship games that we have seen in a long, long time. Was it a defensive slugfest? Absolutely. But Indiana gets it done 13-10. And in year two of the Curt Cignetti era, your Indiana Hoosiers are first-time Big Ten game champions and the first time they've won a Big Ten title of any sorts since 1967. Oh, my goodness. What a game. What a performance. What a season for the Indiana Hoosiers. And you're almost speechless, right? There's so many emotions. There's so much to say. We're going to cover it all. Okay, we're going to cover every single bit of it. I have a full page and a half of notes that I want to go over about this game. We're going to talk about the offense. We're going to talk about the defense. We'll talk about the special teams. We'll talk about some of the decisions. We'll talk about the momentum swings. We'll talk about how Indiana was the better football team tonight in this game. You're now the number one team in the country. We'll talk about Fernando Mendoza, who just won the Heisman Trophy. We'll also talk about the college football playoff and, of course, likes and dislikes. So come on in, be a part of the show. Man, we are going to have an excellent night, an awesome night, and it may never end. The party does not stop. It's just getting started. Whether you're in Indianapolis, in Indiana, or across the country, across the world, man, celebrate tonight if you wear the cream and crimson. This is a moment most of you have never seen in your Indiana fandom, and it's one that you should absolutely celebrate. Don't let anybody take this from you tonight because the Indiana Hoosiers are Big Ten champions. Again, my name is Jacob Goins, host of Locked On Hoosiers, a daily show talking all things Indiana athletics. The Hoosiers take down the Buckeyes 13-10 in the Big Ten championship game, and they are Big Ten champions. And there is so much to go over here from this game, but at the end of the day, Indiana won this thing. This was not given to them. This was not a fluke. This was not random. This was not Ohio State played a bad football game. Indiana won the Big Ten title. Indiana beat Ohio State and earned everything they're going to get from here on out. And how can you not just be so proud of what this team has accomplished, what this program has accomplished, what Curt Cignetti has done in his short time in Bloomington? He has set the bar so high, right, for every new coach across college football that it's simply unfair. It's unfair what he's doing for every new coach in college football. I don't care if they're in the SEC, the Big Ten, the G5. I don't care if they're a high school coach, man. Every administration across the world in football has raised the bar for new coaches because of what Curt Cignetti has done. This doesn't happen at Indiana. This is not supposed to happen here. At least it wasn't. It wasn't supposed to happen. And many people believed that it wouldn't. Many people believed it never would, that Indiana was just a basketball school and they would be the laughingstock of college football. Because when Curt Cignetti got here, Indiana owned a pretty horrible fact in the college football world. where they had more losses than anybody in the country historically ever. Not really what you're looking for if you're Indiana. Here comes Curt Cignetti, this old guy, wears glasses on the sidelines. He's been at James Madison. Most people don't even know who he is. He comes into Indiana. He sets a standard, sets a precedent, makes demands, and all of a sudden Indiana turns around and wins a Big Ten title in just 2 years under his leadership. It's unbelievable to see. It's so much fun to be a part of. In Indiana, the Hoosiers on the football field are Big Ten champions in 2025, taking down Ohio State 13-10. Man, the offense was not good, but it was good enough for Indiana. The defense was their best performance I think they've ever had. I think it's the best performance you've ever had. You held Ohio State to the least amount of rushing yards that they've had in a game since 2011. You hold Julian Sayin 21 of 29 for 258 and a touchdown. He actually played pretty well. He did have a pretty big pick in there as well, and he was not able to burn you all that many times, and you got off the field when you needed to. You forced Ohio State to stall several times, to punt the ball to you, and then the 27-yard shanked field goal. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that in my entire life. But that is all credit to the Indiana defense, who we've had discussions all year long. Everybody in college football has had discussions all year long that these were the two best teams in the nation. These were also the two best defenses in the nation. The offenses are kind of wishy-washy at times, right? And you could see that in this game tonight between Fernando Mendoza, Julian Sayin, the running game, the receivers, and things like that. Teams have been banged up offensively as well. But the debate all season was that these were the two best defenses in the entire country. I think we know who the best defense in the country is walking out of Lucas Oil Stadium tonight. It's the Indiana Hoosiers. You dominated this. You owned the line of scrimmage. So much different than it was a year ago against the Buckeyes. So much different than it was a year ago against Notre Dame in the college football playoff. You went and reloaded. You restocked. Was the offensive line performance good tonight? No, not really, but we'll get to that in a moment. It was the defensive front. It was the linebacker unit. It was guys in the secondary, even though D'Angelo Pons had the toughest assignment in America, and Jeremiah Smith got his yards, and we said that he would at 144, and he only got burned once. Folks, that's a win to me. That's a win. You didn't give up a big touchdown. You didn't give up several big plays, and there were no broken coverages. There were no miscommunications. There were no bad penalties in there either, other than the one on Kamara down the stretch, which I don't see how a defender can get called for a low chop block when he's going to make a play on the football, but I digress. This Indiana defense came to play, and they came to play with something to prove, because all they've heard, right, all they've heard was that Ohio State's offense was just too good. Bo Jackson, the freshman, he's named after a legend. He's just going to tear the defense up. You can't stop Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis. You can't stop them all. Julian Sayin should be winning the Heisman Trophy. He's the best quarterback in America. That's what they were told. That's what Indiana heard. And Bryant Haynes and that defense showed up and put on the best performance we've seen in the Cream and Crimson, one of the best performances we've seen in Champ Weekend ever. And this will go down in history for Indiana football on the defensive side. They deserve the credit for this win tonight. You look on the opposite side of the football. Folks, Fernando Mendoza just won the Heisman Trophy. Fernando Mendoza just won the Heisman Trophy. How awesome is that? How incredible is that? Mendoza, 15 of 23, had the pick, also had a touchdown, and had some incredible throws in there. That touchdown pass to Elijah Sarratt, it's just perfect that it was to 13. That's an NFL level throw. There are 3 dudes in college that can make that throw perfectly, and very few guys in the receiving core across America that can make that catch. Fernando Mendoza just won the Heisman Trophy. And how about Charlie Becker? How about our man, Charlie Becker? 6 catches, 126 yards, including a 51-yard dagger at the end. Charlie Becker stepped up in a big way. When number 2 goes out, your number 2, Omar Cooper, who was injured on the, oh goodness, what was it? The 3rd play of the game and never came back. You felt like you were in trouble. You felt like, okay, Ohio State can put their best guys on Sarratt and make somebody else beat you. Guess what? Charlie Becker did. 80 and White beat you tonight if you're the Ohio State defense, and you probably never saw it coming. That's incredible work by number 80 on the Indiana offense. And Fernando Mendoza, you cannot say enough about his composure after being just drilled on the first play of the game. Clean, by the way. Totally clean. By Ohio State's, 6'9", 500-pound defensive end who's going to be playing in the NFL. That dude's a beast, and respect to him. He had a hell of a game. I mean, he got a free pop on the first play of the game against Mendoza, and that's by design, folks. That was not just, oh, there he is, I guess I'll hit him. No, that's a mindset. That's a game plan. That's a strategy by Ohio State, and it should have been. And Indiana gave their very own back to Julian Sayin. But, man, did everybody not just stop breathing, gasp, hand over mouth? When Fernando Mendoza goes down on the first play of the game, Alberto Mendoza has to come in and hand the football off, and then 15 runs back out there. You're like, oh, thank the Lord, right? Thank you that Fernando Mendoza is okay. Probably the biggest hit he's taken all season, probably the biggest hit he's ever taken in his life on the football field. And he comes in and delivers a good enough performance to win the Big Ten title, to secure the number 1 seed in the college football playoff, and to win the Heisman Trophy. All three of those things will have the IU logo on it. It'll say Indiana Hoosiers in 2025. What a win for Indiana in this football game. And I want to go back to the defense. Again, we're going to talk so much about it. I see all your comments. Keep dropping them. I want to see them. I want to hear them as we're talking about Indiana taking down Ohio State, slaying the Giant like nobody said you could in the Big Ten championship game, 13-10 in downtown Indianapolis. Thank God the football team made up for whatever the basketball team did earlier today against Louisville. Want to go back to the defense for a second, and we're going to get to this some more as we go. Folks, do you realize that the Hoosier defense pitched a shutout in the second half against Ohio State? Buckeyes led 7-3 after the first, led 10-6 at the half, and did not score a single point after that. Had their chances, sure, but did not score a point in the second half against the nation's best defense in Indiana. They deserve the credit. Bryant Haynes had a perfect game plan for what is a good, not great Ohio State running game with Bo Jackson. We saw it against Michigan, was that last week, where it was just by volume. It wasn't anything crazy. He got volume. He didn't get a ton of yards, right? He wasn't breaking off major runs, massive runs. I think tonight his longest was a 20-yarder there late in the game. But Bryant Haynes knew what they had to do. They brought pressure. They brought blitzes. They brought it from different angles. They brought different matchups. They had all sorts of different combinations to get after Julian Sayin and put pressure on him, a guy that just simply didn't get sacked this year. A guy that had 5 interceptions coming into the game, and he threw another one tonight. Both quarterbacks had one early. And yet I thought both of them played well, but the Indiana defense just played better. And you have to give credit to Bryant Haynes, man. If somebody ends up finding that guy and hiring him as a head coach, they should. He's incredible. I hope they don't. Hope he stays in Bloomington forever, and Indiana pays him $1 million bazillion a day for him to stay in Bloomington. Same thing for Shanahan on offense. It wasn't the prettiest, and that's the best defense you've ever played against in the Buckeyes. But man, when you needed it, I said it the other day on a radio show in Columbus, Ohio. I said, when you need a bucket in basketball, you go to your guy. You go to your guard. You go to your shot creator. You go to your bucket getter. When you need a bucket in crunch time, you go to your dude. And Indiana football did that today with Fernando Mendoza. Receiving-wise, the touchdown was Sarratt. When you needed a catch, it was Charlie Becker. Charlie Becker, of all people, who probably should win MVP of the Big Ten title game if you're going to give it to the offensive side. Just unbelievable stuff, man. And Fernando Mendoza showed why he was the best quarterback in the nation tonight, why Indiana's defense is the best in the nation tonight, and walking out of Lucas Oil Stadium, the Indiana Hoosiers are the best team in the country tonight. And in 2025, your Indiana Hoosiers are Big Ten title holders. 13-10. Hoosiers take down the Buckeyes in Indianapolis. Stick around. We're going to talk so much more about what this game was like, the ebbs and flows, the red zone struggles for Indiana that almost came back to bite them, and what this means moving forward for the college football playoff, for the Heisman Trophy, and so much more. We talk about all that coming up next on this live edition of Locked On Hoosiers. This live show of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. Had plenty of those tonight in the Big Ten title game, right? Did you jump on the Hoosiers when they were down at the half? You could have, and you should have, and you could have won some money as Indiana comes back to win this thing in the second half. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. This live edition of Locked On Hoosiers is also brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories, because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it, so when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure it out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. Go to Aura Frames right now, auraframes.com, that is, right now, to get $35 off of Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter by using the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code COLLEGE. Be sure you shout us out when you check out at auraframes.com. Terms and conditions apply. All right, welcome back into this live edition of Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics as the Hoosiers take down the Buckeyes 13-10 in the Big Ten championship game. You can see me, I'm getting worked up. I'm sweating already, man, as just excitement, just stress, and all of it is now over as Indiana takes down the Buckeyes 13-10 in the Big Ten championship game. And man, it's something that you believed. I did. I believed it could happen, but you understood going into this, right? You understood going into the game what you were up against. You were up against the most talented team in the country, one of the most talented teams that's ever been put together, one of the most expensive rosters we've ever seen in college football. And you knew that Indiana was good enough, right? You knew the Hoosiers had the talent and the coaching and the game plan to pull off the upset. It was just whether they could actually do it. And they did. And man, it was just so much fun. And down the stretch in that second half, man, I had a weird confidence that Indiana was going to pull it off. I had a weird sense that Indiana was going to win the football game. Now, they were still going to have to do what they were supposed to do and stay disciplined and win and things like that. But, man, they did. And you saw tonight the discipline that Curt Cignetti has embedded into this team, into this program. And that's why they're champions tonight. That's why they're celebrating, popping bottles in the locker room as we speak, right? It's unbelievable to see what Indiana was able to do tonight as they take down Ohio State 13-10. Again, keep dropping your thoughts in the YouTube comments. We're talking about it live on this Locked On Hoosiers live show tonight, our second live show of the day. We did one earlier for basketball. That one wasn't as much fun as this one is. So if you want to go check that out or any of our other content, you can certainly do so with the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel. If audio is more your speed, you can go check us out, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever the case may be. Wherever you want to find us, you will find us at Locked On Hoosiers. So keep dropping your thoughts in the YouTube comments. We're going to try and get to some of those. Ain't no way we get to all of them, but we'll try, right? We'll also do likes and dislikes as well. And I do want to talk about what happens next, okay, for Indiana, as you are now the #1 team in the country. You are now Big Ten champions. You also have the Heisman Trophy winner. Don't believe me? Our friends at FanDuel, it's Fernando Mendoza. And it's not even close, okay? Got to put my glasses back on so I can see exactly what all is happening here. Fernando Mendoza, in terms of the Heisman, is now minus 3,000 to win the trophy. Diego Pavia is next at plus 1,500. Fernando Mendoza just won the Heisman Trophy. Okay, so that's happening. And in terms of the the national championship odds with our friends at FanDuel, Ohio State's still the betting favorite, plus 250. All right, plus 250. Indiana is plus 280. So that is as close as it's been in a long, long time. Georgia is at plus 700. So it's down to the Buckeyes and the Hoosiers again. But here's the awesome part. Indiana now technically has the easiest, and I put that in quotes, okay, the easiest path to the national championship. You'll be the number 1 seed. You'll get the first round bye. Remember all that conversation I was having about Indiana getting it in writing that if they lose, they shouldn't be punished and things? Don't have to worry about that now. You won the game, so you don't have to worry about it. I do think Ohio State will drop, but I mean, honestly, maybe third at most, only because Georgia dismantled Alabama in the college football playoff. That would be the only reason you see Georgia jump them, but I'm totally fine if Ohio State wants to stay at 2, or if the playoff committee wants them to stay at 2. If you want to put Georgia there because they're SEC champs, fine, and I'm sure they will. But Ohio State should not drop more than 3. And that was my argument the whole time for Indiana and Ohio State, and for Georgia too, was those teams should not drop out of the college football playoff top 4 for losing their title game. That was my argument the entire time. And so, sure, it's nice that Indiana doesn't have to worry about it, but Ohio State shouldn't have to worry about it either. And I don't think they will. I think they'll be fine, just kind of looking at the grand scheme of things. And we'll see what the selection show says tomorrow. We'll talk about what the rankings are and how that impacts Indiana as now the number 1 team in the country, taking down Ohio State, right? 13-10 in the Big Ten championship game. And I say we get into likes and dislikes because I think this is going to take a while, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Drop your thoughts. Again, there are hundreds of you watching, dropping your thoughts in there. So continue to do that. We're going to get to as many of these as we can, and the likes will start there. And you know how this goes. We rapid fire, we go back and forth, likes, dislikes, kind of down the middle as well. The like is the biggest one, is that you just made history. You just made history. Indiana football is the highest right now that it's ever been in every aspect. Highest in the rankings, highest in the title, highest in the Heisman, highest in the media, highest in the attention. Everybody knows who Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers are now. There's not a soul in college football that doesn't know. And there's also not a soul that doesn't respect you now. If there's anybody who says, that's a fluke, Ohio State didn't care, they weren't there to play. Really? Really? You really believe that Ohio State didn't want that game? You really believe that Ryan Day getting fired up on the sidelines was for show, was fake? Man, anybody that doesn't believe in Indiana now, and we've been trying to tell them this for 2 years, people in the Big Ten, people in the P4, people across the country, if you don't believe now, you're not even a hater. You're just a sorry person. Sorry. I mean, it is what it is, because you're refusing to believe a fact that the Indiana Hoosiers are the best team in college football. And they proved it tonight on the field against last year's defending national champions. And you did it, not going to say in dominating fashion, but it didn't have to be. You won the game fair and square. 4 quarters, start to finish, you won this football game. And you showed why Curt Cignetti is the best coach in the country, why Indiana is the best team in the country, why Fernando Mendoza is the best quarterback in the country. This defense is the best defense in the country, and Indiana should be the betting favorite, and they are my pick to win the national championship as we sit here on this Saturday night. That was a lot of fun, man. That was so much fun. And my like is that you just made history. But I don't want to say that Indiana just capped off its most historic season ever, because I don't believe we're done. I don't think we're done at all. I think Indiana has a lot more to play for. I think you still have 3-4 games left in you, however many it takes right now to win the national championship. I think you have that, and you are fully prepared to do that. And man, I cannot wait to hear the quotes from Curt Cignetti and the players. I watched the interview with Fernando on TV right before we went live, and mean, the dude's crying on national television, just talking about all glory to God and how excited he was and how grateful he was for the program and the coaches and the teammates and things. I mean, man, that stuff is awesome to me. And that's a like for a guy who transferred in, started immediately over his brother, and has taken this program to heights it's never seen. But you have to look back at what last year was and what last year's team was able to do with guys like Curtis Rourke on that team, right? And the guys on offense who aren't on this team anymore, and what they started and what this team was able to finish in terms of a Big Ten title. And that's another big like for me. A like for me is that so many guys came back. So many guys said, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I think we have something special brewing in Bloomington, Indiana. And they believed it and they earned it. It's a big like for me. I also like that this team was not intimidated by Ohio State tonight. This felt different, right? I know it had so much of the attention and the coverage and the vibes, right, of number 1 versus number 2, and College Game Day didn't go there, and they know they screwed up, but I think they had to go to the SEC for obvious reasons. But this had more attention and coverage on it than a lot of the Big Ten championship games I've seen in the last several years. So that part of it obviously fed into this line of thinking that I'm telling you now. But this matchup between Ohio State and Indiana felt different, right? Last year, it was David and Goliath. It was big dog Ohio State and teeny weeny Indiana. It just was. And Indiana held their own last year, right? Indiana was down by a couple of scores before Ohio State scored late on a garbage time touchdown to make it look better than it was. And Indiana was happy to be there. Indiana was happy to be in the college football playoff last year when they had to travel to Notre Dame. Those are facts, folks. It was year 1. It was year 1, and you came out of absolutely nowhere. Tonight was different. Indiana walked into Lucas Oil Stadium confidently. Indiana walked into Lucas Oil believing they could win and that they were going to win and that they had the talent and the coaching and the strategy to compete for 4 quarters. And by God, they did. And they executed to perfection. No, but good enough. Good enough to beat the number 1 team in the country. Good enough to beat the defending national champions. Good enough to beat the favorite in this game itself. That's a big like for me, folks, that Indiana believed they were going to win this game. And I think they played like it. And it just felt different tonight. Talked a lot about the defense, right? And how they just played out of their freaking minds, dude. The defensive line got after the Ohio State offensive line. Secondary played good. D'Angelo Pons, I said it earlier, had the toughest assignment in America tonight in Jeremiah Smith, who got his. And a lot of them were on that final catch, I know. But even before that catch, he had over 100 yards. And you're not going to stop Jeremiah Smith. I think we need to accept that. Nobody can stop him. You just got to slow him down. And what stood out to me was that D'Angelo Pons, he wasn't on him all the time. He had Carnell Tate a couple of times too, but most of the time he was on 4. And he only got beat deep once. That's it. He got beat 1 time, really. And that's remarkable to me. I love that from D'Angelo Pons. Lewis Moore made big plays tonight. Amari Ferrell made big plays tonight. Aiden Fisher dropped back and covered several times from the linebacker spot tonight. Daly on the defensive front. Kamara on the defensive front. So many players made impactful plays on defense, and that's what you have to have, man. You can't rely on 2 or 3 guys to get you through in a Big Ten championship game. And Indiana relied on 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 guys defensively, and they all stepped up and they played together. They played on a string. Talk about that in basketball a lot, and it showed. And you held Ohio State to 10 points. You held them scoreless in the second half, and their lowest rushing total in a game since 2011. That's something to hang your hat on, man. That's something to go home and pat yourself on the back and buy yourself a cookie or something. You know what I mean? That's something to celebrate. And you should tonight. So the defensive effort and execution was some of the best I've ever seen in a football game. And that's a major, major like for me. More likes and dislikes. Again, drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments as we are having a good time on this live edition of Locked On Hoosiers here on YouTube. And for those of you listening later on in the audio version as well. Likes for me Running game was solid. Wasn't great for Indiana going to the offensive side of the football here. Roman Hemby was all right. I love Kalon Black, man. I love that guy. He runs so hard and he gets chunky yardages. Hemby's more of your bruiser, I'm going to hit you, you're going to feel me type of back and going to get 2 or 3 yards. Kalon Black is the guy that says, oh, there's a hole about that big? Cool. Let me find my way through it. Boom. And here's 9 or 10 yards. That's the difference. But you can't prepare for either one of them. And so I thought the offensive line protected Fernando Mendoza good enough. Again, was not great, but good enough, especially after the first play. Run blocking was solid, and they did what they needed to do. Mikulski came in because of Evans. No, Evans was fine. Mikulski had to rotate out. You had to bring other guys in. It was not going well early. It was not going well early. 75 was not having a good night against the Buckeyes, but you figured it out. Okay, you figured it out if you're Indiana, and you did what you had to do. Mentioned earlier, Charlie Becker stepping up in the absence of Omar Cooper. Dislike is Omar Cooper and his injury status. Thankfully, you're going to have some time off here, but the idea that you were able to still win a football game without him is remarkable. Big like for me is Charlie Becker. Shout out 80. All right, that guy played incredible. Sarratt had the touchdown, had a catch from E.J. Williams in there. Riley Nowakowski had a catch or two tonight. You had Bond came in and had a couple of catches tonight. I mean, and Brady, right? I think Brady had a couple of catches too. Just timely executed plays. When you needed it, you got it for Indiana on both sides of the ball. And at the end of the day, you still win the football game. I know Radicic missed a kick. That's a dislike for me. His second miss of the year, right? But Ohio State gave you one back on a 27-yard shank. And look, I don't know what that was, and I feel really bad for the dude. That really sucks. It does. We've all had our teams there before. 27-yard chip shot, right? And you just absolutely hosel it, right? And just kicks off left and goes into the woods. That's a tough spot to be in, brother. That's a really, really tough spot to be in. But you got to make the plays. Got to make the plays. And so Radicic missed a kick, yes, for Indiana, but Ohio State gave one right back, and Indiana finds a way to win the football game 13-10. Again, talking likes and dislikes here on Locked On Hoosiers as Indiana are Big Ten champions in college football. Their first time ever being in the Big Ten title game, and they win the Big Ten title game. Can we just go ahead and cancel it right now? I want to say Indiana's 100% winning percentage in Indianapolis, and we never have to play it again, which I think could end up happening, but more on that at a later date. Oh, goodness. I mean, I wrote down some notes just to make sure I kind of stayed on track. Turnovers were fine. Again, both quarterbacks had a turnover early in the game, but other than that, you were fine. Want to address the holding calls really quick. I know there was a lot of frustration for us as Indiana fans in terms of the holding calls. A lot of frustration on the Ohio State fan side of things as well in terms of the holding calls. Officiating was not good. All right, it was not good in this game. Was it terrible? No, but it wasn't good. And there were holding calls on both sides. Some of them were very drastic on both sides. And I understand, I'm making basketball references here a lot, but we talk about that in basketball of letting them play, right? It's like, okay, if that's not a foul on this end, we won't call a foul on this end. We'll kind of let it play out. But folks, this is football. A hold is a hold. Hold's got to be called. I don't care where it is, who it is, how it is. A hold has got to be called. And there were a bunch of them tonight that simply were not on both sides of the field. But I don't think one team, I'm taking my cream and crimson glasses off here for a moment. I don't think either team had the advantage because holding calls were not being made. I'm just being honest with you. But at the end of the day, did that impact the final outcome of this game? I don't think so. I don't. I simply don't. I think both teams had them, and both teams didn't get them called. So it is what it is. My goodness, there are a ton of comments in here. This is awesome. Again, keep dropping your thoughts in here. I'll go through some of these. There's no way I can get through all of these. I do want to talk about Ohio State for just a moment here. And I don't want to say I expected more from the Buckeyes, but I kind of did, right? And Indiana defensively deserves all the credit for Ohio State's offense being not stagnant, but not good. But man, they just looked out of sorts. They just looked not right. And it wasn't that they weren't focused. It wasn't that they weren't ready. They're nothing like that, okay? But they did get over the hump of Michigan last week, and they did know they had a spot in the top 4 of the college football playoff, and Indiana had something to prove tonight. Ohio State, I said this earlier in the week, Ohio State has been here so many times. It's just another game for the Buckeyes, which in some ways is an advantage for them. Tonight, I think it was a disadvantage. And I think Indiana caught them by surprise. Not a ton, but in terms of their execution and their effort, the fan support, right? Believe tonight broke a attendance record at Lucas Oil for the Big Ten championship game. Like 68,000 people were there to watch Indiana beat Ohio State 13-10 and raise the Big Ten championship trophy. So that's incredible. I just expected more from Ohio State. I was expecting a couple more big plays, especially negatively on defense. Indiana started to find its way offensively. I expected them to have a couple of more deep shots downfield. And man, I put that on Ryan Day. Simple enough. I put that on Ryan Day. And I was talking with some buddies that I was watching the game with, and we even talked about this with Jay Stevens of Locked On Buckeyes in our preview show yesterday. Ryan Day at Ohio State, offensively in particular, the defense is fine. They held Indiana to 13 points tonight. They're doing just fine. Offensively, though, they get in these ruts where they just refuse to throw the football. And I don't know why. Remember, they did this last year, talking about the Buckeyes here. They did this last year. And they were struggling through games. They tried to ground and pound Michigan a year ago. They lost for the 4th time in a row. And then Ryan Day's seat was on the line. And Tennessee comes to town. And they're like, I guess we should probably start throwing the football. And they torched everybody and went on and smoked their way to a national title last year. And they've had to do the same thing again this year. They just haven't done it as much. They tried to ground and pound Michigan again. And they finally decided, maybe we should just throw the ball. And they did, and they beat Michigan by several scores, and they owned that football game. Why did they not do that tonight, talking about the Buckeyes here? Why did they not throw the ball more? I understand Indiana's defensive line is the best in the country, or one of the best in the country. I think the linebacker unit is the best in the country, and I think the secondary unit's a top 3 unit in college football with the best corner in the nation in D'Angelo Pons. And you've got safeties like Ferrell and Moore and guys like that back there, but why not test the Indiana secondary? Man, throw it up and see if you get something. Get a grab by Jeremiah Smith. Get Carnell Tate on a crossing route. Get a PI call. Get something, right? Get it to Brandon Ennis. He had, 1 or 2 catches tonight? I just don't understand why Ohio State gets in these ruts offensively, and it allows teams like Indiana, who's aggressive, coming after the quarterback, to pin their ears back and get after it. So weird things there. If I do a like or dislike for the opposing team, that's a dislike on Ohio State, man. Just throw the ball. You got Julian Saying, you got 2 of the best receivers. Just throw it up and see what happens. Other stuff that I want to get here. Someone said they didn't have faith in their quarterback. I don't know. Not having faith in a top 3 Heisman contending quarterback and Julian Saying's kind of wild, but maybe that's the case. I don't know. What other likes and dislikes do we have? We're going to start scrolling through some of these comments. Again, Indiana, Big Ten champs, man. 13-10 over Ohio State. You're the number 1 team in the country. Fernando Mendoza is the Heisman Trophy winner, and the Hoosiers are Big Ten title champions. First sort of a title in the Big Ten since 1967, your first ever win in the Big Ten championship game, and your first ever appearance in the Big Ten championship game. So thank you so much for joining us here on Locked On Hoosiers. Just scrolling through some of these. Got an Oregon fan that says, congrats to Indiana. That team is a tough out, even if they lose at all this year. I would not even be mad if they won it all. It's a solid team. We appreciate that coming from an Oregon fan. And that's what I'm saying, man. How can you not respect this team? How can you be looking from the outside on the Indiana Hoosiers and still say, yeah, I don't believe it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. They got lucky. Ohio State didn't care. I don't believe it. I'm not saying you got to stand here tonight and say, yep, national champions right there. Book it, put the house on it, and nobody else is going to beat that team. I'm not saying say that. I'm saying you should respect Indiana after tonight. That's all I'm saying. And so again, our friends at FanDuel, just as we kind of begin to slowly wind down here, okay, friends at FanDuel have the betting odds. Ohio State still a slim favorite to win the national championship. Indiana right on their tail, and then a big drop off to the Georgia Bulldogs. Heisman Trophy. Fernando Mendoza's got it locked up. Nobody's even close. He has already taken off. He's a whole lap and a half ahead of everybody else. And he's like Michael Phelps, man. He's just outswam everybody. So, oh, dislikes very quickly. I just got reminded of it by reading a comment. Red zone issues for Indiana offensively. Red zone issues. Oh, gosh. 13 points total tonight. Your first 3 trips into the red zone where you ended your drives inside the Ohio State 30-yard line, you walk away with 6 points. And you trail the Buckeyes 10-6 at the half. Folks, that easily could have come back to get you. That easily could have come back to haunt you and bite you and bury you in this game. And this is not the first time we've talked about the Indiana offense having struggles like this, which is concerning long-term, sure. It's nice to know that you can win a game even when you are struggling in the red zone. But man, you just got to get that figured out. And I don't know if that's staying committed to the run, if that's putting it in the hands of Mendoza, if that's throwing it out wide and throwing some bubble screens or trying to throw it up in the back of the end zone. I don't know, but I just feel that you were in a really tough spot and someone says take points in a tough game. Totally agree. Okay. Totally agree that there are situations. The first 4th down that Curt Cignetti went for, totally agree to go for it. The second one, I believe it was 4th and 4. If my memory serves me right, believe it was 4th and 4. That one's a little bit dicier. That is taking points at a big game and not risking it, but you just can't stall that many times in the red zone or inside the other team's 30. The defense bailed you out, and eventually you got some plays, and you had the touchdown pass from Mendoza to Sarratt and ultimately win the football game. I'm just thinking bigger picture here in terms of trying to win the national championship. You can't keep stalling inside the 30 and inside the red zone. So one of the few dislikes for me, but I just remembered that kind of reading through some of the comments. Yes, yeah, I mean, just see some people talking bad about Indiana. I just don't see how you can. It just kind of blows my mind. And yeah, there was the personal foul, man, this one right here. Again, I mentioned that earlier. It was Kamara who was trying to get out. Was it Bo Jackson carrying the football? I think on it. It may have been a screen pass. Again, there's a lot going through my brain at the moment, but I think it was the pass out to Bo Jackson or a receiver. I can't remember. And Kamara was the only, it was the reverse pass. It was the double pass, right? They threw it to the near side. Receiver turns and throws it back to the far side. Kamara is the only one defensively there for Indiana. He's trying to get back and make a play. Offensive lineman's downfield blocking. Kamara just tries to get in the way. He gets called for a personal foul and a chop block. What? What's he supposed to do? Just stand there, get out of the way, watch the dude run by, wave at him? I mean, that was wild to me. Big dislike for me. But thankfully it didn't come back to bite you or anything. So, man, what a night. What an absolute night. The defense was the key to this win. It's exactly right. Exactly right. Without Omar Cooper, again, do want to mention that Omar Cooper went down 3rd play of the game, did not come back. Believe they were saying on the broadcast it was a lower body injury. So we will see what his status is. Good news is you've got some time off, right? You've got some time to get right, some time to get healthy, some time to celebrate this tonight. Hopefully Cignetti will take at least another day to celebrate. We know how he rolls. He won't celebrate very long, I have a feeling. But you got to get Omar Cooper back. Okay, you were able to win this game because Charlie Becker made some plays. I'm not going to say bailed you out because that sounds negative and that's not correct. But you're going to have to get Omar Cooper healthy if you want to win a national championship. I think that's plain and simple. Continuing to look through people talking again, drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments. We got almost 400 people live here on this Locked On Hoosiers show on this Saturday night. We appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Yeah, I did love this. Ohio State fans leaving with over a minute left in the game because the last first down to Charlie Becker that was it. Buckeyes had a timeout left. Indiana got the big first down. They ran the first down play. Ohio State called a timeout. And at that point, all it took was some simple math to realize, okay, Buckeyes are going to have 20 seconds, maybe. First play, horrible. Threw it out to the receiver, tight end, whoever that was on the near side. Took like 10 seconds, and he stepped out of bounds after gaining a yard. Don't know what that was about. Don't think that was the idea. And then they just had to chuck it. Jeremiah Smith caught it, but whatever. And that's the ball game, right? And so, yeah, it's nice to see the opposing fans leave it a little bit early. And hopefully if you were there, right, if you're here in this show right now and you were at the game tonight, drop it in the comments. I want to see how many people watching right now were at the game. This is funny. No, well, you're not going to trade Cignetti for Bielema. You guys can keep any of your coaches and we'll keep ours. But for real, if anybody was at the game tonight and you're watching right now, drop it in the YouTube comments and tell us what the environment was like, man. We can hear it on TV. Obviously I was not there. But it just looked incredible, man. That's history. That's a historic night with over 68,000 people there at Lucas Oil for Indiana's first ever appearance in the Big Ten championship game. And you win the dang thing. Like how, like you can't put that into words, man. And that's kind of what I get paid to do. But even then I can't do it. How about this? This is what it's about right here. Denny says, watch the game with my son and daughter, daughter-in-law and son-in-law, and my wonderful wife. Wow, what a memory. Go IU. Folks, we're talking about a fan base of us at Indiana for football that was probably the most miserable at the P4, P5 level. You had the most losses ever before Curt Cignetti got here, and now you win the title. In 2 years. You're now the number one team in the country. You've got a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback now in Fernando Mendoza, and you're hanging a banner in the facility this weekend. How can you not savor this? How can you not celebrate this? And this is good for college football. Okay, we'll kind of end the show tonight on this, on the idea of just got to watch it with my dad. That's awesome. Like, that's incredible. People getting to watch this game. Hoosier fans have been in misery for decades, for everybody for their lives, unless you were born last year and you don't know any better, right? You've been miserable your whole life for football. Basketball, we've obviously had our ups and downs, there's no doubt, and that hasn't been good lately. But for football, we've had nothing. Nothing. Good year here and there, but it always goes away. You've had, as this commenter says, the greatest turnaround in sports history. I think it needs to be studied. I absolutely do. I think that needs to be studied. And there will be a documentary on this one day. And you as an Indiana fan, me as an Indiana fan, us as a community who cheer on the Hoosiers, who wear the cream and crimson, who do and live this every day, we will be a part of that. And you were a part of history tonight. That's a big deal. So if you got to do this with your family and your friends and your buddies, did it at the house or at a bar or at the game, I don't care if you watched it outside. I don't care if you watched it on your phone laying in bed by yourself. Man, enjoy this. Savor this. History was made tonight, and the Hoosiers aren't done, right? And that's what's up next, is Indiana has some time off. You get to watch the selection show tomorrow where you'll be the number one team in the country. You then get to wait for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, where Fernando Mendoza will be named the Heisman Trophy winner for 2025. And Indiana will be the number one team in the college football playoff. You'll know who you could play. You'll watch the first round. And then with this, you will most likely play on New Year's Day, right? I think that's how that'll work. The bowl games get to choose who they want. And I think this will put Indiana in the Rose Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double check on all that, and we'll talk about that coming up this week. But I believe that'll put Indiana in the Rose Bowl. Yeah. January 1st. I think that's right. I think Indiana will play in the Rose Bowl because I think the bowl games have first rights, or like they have dibs or whatever. So they should choose the number one team in the country, unless they want to choose Ohio State, which I don't know how all that works. I'll have to get refreshed on that. But this was history tonight. Back to back. I mean, just unbelievable, man. Speechless, even though I've talked for almost 50 minutes straight. When you start thinking about how big this was for Indiana, it's awesome. It's fantastic. So for everybody who has cheered on this team for however long, enjoy it. You earned it. You deserved it. And Indiana in 2025, the Indiana Hoosiers on the football field are 2025 Big Ten champions. That is incredible. It's awesome. It gets you fired up. It gets you emotional. It just gets you so excited for what the rest of this season can be. Enjoy this one tonight. Pour yourself a drink. Have yourself a snack, right? Whatever your guilty pleasure is, do it. Because Indiana's Big Ten champs, baby. Number 1 team in the country. Heisman Trophy winner. It does not get better than this until you double down and win a national championship. So that's the biggest like I've got, man. That's it. Let's wrap it up on that, huh? Let's end on the highest note possible tonight. That the Indiana Hoosiers are Big Ten champions, and now you turn your focus to trying to win a national championship. Thank you so much for being here tonight. This has been an absolute blast. We cover Indiana. I cover Indiana every single day. Okay, Locked On Hoosiers right here on the YouTube channel or on your audio podcasting platforms. However you want to be a part of this, I want you to be here. Subscribe to the show, okay? Tune in every day. We have new episodes talking football and basketball, okay? One sport's a lot more fun to talk about than the other right now, but that's okay. We still cover both. Cover recruiting, we cover the portal, we cover wins, we cover losses. All right, every single day on Locked On Hoosiers. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. You follow us on your audio platforms. We will have some sort of content going out tomorrow, okay, after the selection show. We'll have a full episode going up on Monday to talk about the playoff, to talk more about the Big Ten championship and how the Hoosiers have made history once again. So thank you for tuning into this live show. Again, we're doing this every single day at Locked On Hoosiers. And we're part of the number 1 podcasting network in the world for sports. So if you're not joining us now would be the time to do so. All right. You're Indiana Hoosiers. They're Big Ten champions. Enjoy it tonight. Celebrate as your team is the best in the nation. We're back on Monday for a normal episode, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.